Okay, welcome to the deep dive.
Hey there.
Today, we are plunging into a genuinely wild corner of the internet,
Mm-hmm.
specifically a Reddit thread from Rackintosh. And the title, it kind of gives it away. Hackintosh, but on a phone. LumiPhone 1020 SE.
Yeah, that title alone, it absolutely signals we're not in for, a typical discussion about mobile tech. Something unusual is definitely going on.
It really does. So our sources for this deep dive, they're purely user posts and comments from that specific thread.
Right?
And our mission today is really to unpack this bizarre, it's undeniably impressive, this custom phone build.
Yeah, got to figure out how they did it.
Exactly. We want to understand the sheer technical feat involved and, explore that interesting mix of deep tech modification, digital nostalgia, and just pure engineering creativity it represents.
So get ready for a look at something truly unique. It's a device that has that instantly recognizable, iconic look of a classic Windows phone.
The Lumia, yeah.
But somehow, it's running the latest iOS. It's this fusion of worlds that, shouldn't really coexist.
Okay, let's unpack this. The builder, they kick things off with this sort of provocative premise, running iOS on a Windows phone, and they draw that analogy to Hackintosh,
Right.
running macOS on non-Apple PCs.
Right. But they're careful right away to clarify that, despite the headline, this isn't some software magic trick.
No.
This isn't iOS just suddenly running on the original Lumia hardware because of some, clever bootloader hack or amazing driver wizardry.
Yeah, they were very explicit about that. None of the original Lumia 1020's internals are actually running the OS.
Nope.
They used an analogy that kind of helps picture it. Think of it more like putting a high-end Mac motherboard inside the case of an old Office PC.
That's a much better picture, yeah. That's really what the LumiPhone 1020 SE is. It's basically a complete hardware transplant.
Okay.
The entire guts, all the internals of an iPhone SE3, that's the third gen, the 5G one.
The modern one.
Have been painstakingly relocated and somehow fitted into the outer shell of a Nokia Lumia 1020.
So the 1020 aspect is really just the outside. The casing, the shell, the look, and that front display glass.
Pretty much. It looks like a Lumia 1020, probably feels like one in your hand.
Right.
But the actual brain, the logic board, the chip, the modem, everything driving the software experience, it's pure modern iPhone SE3.
That is wild. Okay, so let's talk about the surgery involved here. How do you even begin to fit all that modern iPhone tech into a shell designed for, decade-old Windows Phone parts?
Yeah, what's actually inside this Lumia skin?
Right.
Well, at its core, like we said, it's a fully functional iPhone SE3. So that means it's got the A15 Bionic chip powering it.
Okay, fast.
Yeah, 128 gigs of storage. And importantly, the 5G from the iPhone works. It's retained.
5G works.
It does. The builder actually joked this might be the first ever 5G Lumia.
That is a funny thought. I mean, the 1020 came out way before 5G was even a thing for phones.
Exactly.
What about the screen itself? Fitting an iPhone display into that Lumia chassis sounds incredibly tricky.
No, it definitely was a significant challenge. They had to take the iPhone SE3's screen glass, remove it, and then re-laminate it onto the Lumia 1020's front glass.
Wow, okay.
And because the iPhone SE3 screen area is actually a bit larger than what the Lumia 1020 design originally had room for,
Uh-oh.
a sacrifice had to be made right there at the bottom.
The classic Windows Phone capacitor buttons. The back home, search keys.
Precisely those. Yeah, those iconic buttons, the symbols etched into the glass.
Yeah.
They had to be removed completely, just gone.
To make space for the bigger screen.
Exactly, for the larger active display area from the iPhone.
Yeah.
And that was something, the Reddit community definitely noticed and commented on. People kind of lamented losing that distinctive Windows Phone UI element.
I bet. What about the front camera?
Yeah, the iPhone's selfie camera was transplanted too. It's placed up in the top right corner of the front glass. Yeah. Basically mimicking where the Lumia's original front camera used to be.
Okay, let's talk rear cameras. Because the Lumia 1020, it was legendary for one thing. That huge 41 megapixel sensor on the back, is that usable?
Yeah, you'd hope so, right? But unfortunately, no. That incredible 41 MP CureView camera from the original Lumia, it's just part of the shell now. Decoration.
Oh man, so what's the actual camera?
The working camera is the iPhone SE3's own 12 MP rear camera. That's what was transplanted. The builder placed it centered on the back, sort of nestled just above that distinctive circular Oreo camera bump decoration from the 1020 shell.
Gotcha. And the flash, the 1020 had that really powerful xenon flash.
Right, that long xenon flash bar is still there visually on the back, but again, purely cosmetic.
Just for looks.
Just for looks. The iPhone's own flash, the little two-tone 4 LED assembly that was transplanted and carefully fitted, like right underneath that decorative xenon bar, that's what actually works.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. The buttons and ports. The capacitive buttons are gone.
Yeah.
So where did the home button go? How do you charge it? What about headphones?
Right, this is one of the most ingenious and maybe slightly eccentric parts of the whole build.
Okay.
The iPhone SE3's Touch ID home button, the one usually on the front chin,
Yeah.
it was transplanted to the back of the phone.
The back?
Yep, right on the back, placed directly underneath that big circular camera bump decoration.
Whoa. Does it work?
Apparently, yes. The builder confirmed it's still fully functional as a home button. It even has Force Touch and connects to the Taptic engine, so you get the haptic feedback.
The home button on the back. That's definitely a design choice.
It is. And the builder did note that while it works, it's obviously not as ergonomic as having it on the front.
I can imagine.
So they actually tend to use assistive touch, a little on-screen button in iOS, for navigation most of the time.
Makes sense. What else? SIM card. Headphone jack.
Okay, so on the top, there's a custom push-style SIM card slot right in the original Lumia location.
Okay.
The headphone jack. Well, the hole's there on the shell because the Lumia 1020 had one.
Yeah.
But it's plugged up, sealed.
Ah.
Apparently, trying to retrofit a working headphone jack onto modern iPhone internals is, nearly impossible. Just too complex.
Yeah, I guess Apple's integration makes that super hard. What about the bottom edge? Charging. Speaker.
Down on the bottom, you got the iPhone's Lightning port. It's there. It works for charging and data. But quite cleverly, the builder disguised the outside of the port opening to look like the old micro USB port the Lumia 1020 used.
Ah, nice touch.
Isn't it? And the bottom loudspeaker from the iPhone is also there, placed just to the right of the port, exactly where the Lumia speaker grill was located.
Okay, and the side buttons. Power, volume. Are they the Lumia ones?
The physical button covers are the Lumia ones, yeah. They're in the usual spot on the right side, but underneath, they're connected to the iPhone's internal switches.
So they work as expected.
They do. But there's a cool bonus. A dedicated camera shutter button on the right side.
Oh, like the original Lumia.
Exactly. It's hooked up to the volume key switch.
Mm.
So a half press can focus, full press takes a photo, just like a proper camera button.
That's great, especially for a phone channeling the 1020 spirit.
Totally. Though the builder also mentioned it can just act as another volume down button too. They weren't entirely sure why they wired that bit in, but hey, works for photos.
So, okay, we have this incredible hardware Frankenstein, this monster build. But what software is it actually running? Is it stable? Does it crash all the time?
Right. That's the key thing. Because it is running on genuine transplanted iPhone SE3 hardware, it runs what the builder described as a full-fledged iOS, just normal iOS.
Yeah.
At the time they posted, they specified it was iOS 18.3.1.
Does it get updates? Because that's usually the killer for these kinds of custom projects, right?
That's the really impressive part, yes. It receives standard over-the-air OTA updates directly from Apple, just like any regular iPhone.
No way.
Yes, way. That was apparently a major goal for the builder, to keep it updatable.
Okay, so functionality-wise, is it basically just an iPhone SE3 but wearing a Lumia costume?
For the most part, yeah. Pretty much everything you'd expect to work on genuine iPhone hardware seems to function correctly. Good cellular signal, Apple CarPlay integration works.
What doesn't work?
Just a couple of things noted. Wireless charging is a no-go. And Apple Pay doesn't work either.
Okay, limitations, but maybe not deal breakers for everyone.
Right. And battery health was reported at a pretty healthy 93%.
Okay, so it's not just some cool static prop you put on a shelf. It's a genuinely usable daily driver kind of device.
Seems like it, yeah.
And this project got shared on Rackintosh. What did the community there think when they saw this thing?
Oh, the reaction was overwhelmingly positive. And frankly, people were just kind of stunned.
I bet.
The comments ranged from, real technical appreciation, impressive work, how did you even do that, to just pure disbelief and amusement. Things like crazy, silly, WTF.
Huh.
But a really dominant theme was definitely intense nostalgia, just waves of nostalgia for the Lumia design language and that whole Windows Phone era.
Yeah, I remember Windows Phone fondly, too. It had such a distinct look and feel, those live tiles.
Absolutely. So many commenters were reminiscing about specific things they loved, that Metro design, the clarity of the tiles, the great OLED displays on some models,
Mm.
the always-on display feature,
And of course, the 1020's camera.
and definitely the sheer photographic ambition of that 41MP camera on the 1020 itself. Big talking point.
And inevitably, I guess the conversation in the thread must have touched on why Windows Phone ultimately, well, failed.
Oh yeah, that came up frequently. The general consensus among the commenters seemed to be that the OS itself, Windows Phone, was often well regarded.
Yeah.
Clean, efficient, ran well even on cheaper hardware like the Lumia 520.
Which was super popular.
Hugely popular.
Yeah.
But its downfall is pretty widely blamed on the app gap.
Right.
Specifically, Google's notable lack of first-party support for crucial stuff like YouTube and Gmail. That, combined with this kind of catch-22 cycle for developers,
Not enough users, so no apps.
and not enough apps and no users.
Yeah,
Yeah, a brutal cycle.
for sure. So circling back to the Hackintosh connection, the thread sort of reinforced that distinction we made earlier, didn't it? That this isn't really a software hack in the traditional sense.
Exactly. While some people in the comments affectionately called it a sleeper phone, which is kind of cool,
Yeah, it is.
or even a hardware-level Hackintosh because of the unexpected combo the builder and others kept reiterating.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally a hardware transplant.
Right?
You're running native iOS, but on Apple hardware that happens to be housed in a non-Apple case.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like running macOS on a Dell, which is the typical Hackintosh computer scenario.
Did the builder share pictures of the inside before they sealed it up? I'd love to see the complexity.
They did, yes. And those photos were pretty eye-opening.
I see.
Oh, yeah. The builder explicitly mentioned how difficult it was, requiring things like fly wiring and custom PCB welding. They admitted it's just a messy tangle of components and custom connections on the inside.
But clean outside.
Exactly. The focus was clearly on achieving that clean, original Lumia look on the outside. That contrast is kind of part of the charm, Chaos inside, pristine outside.
And this builder, they're clearly not just a one-off tinkerer, right? They mentioned other projects.
That's right. They mentioned having a Hackintosh desktop and a Hackintosh laptop too. So they're firmly part of that broader community of enthusiasts who really enjoy pushing the boundaries, messing with intended hardware and software combinations.
Makes sense. Was there interest in a tutorial?
Oh, huge interest in the thread for a build tutorial or a video. And the builder actually delivered later on, sharing a YouTube link detailing the process.
Cool. What about that home button on the back? Was that a big point of discussion? People must have had opinions.
It definitely came up quite a bit. Some commenters suggested, hey, why don't you just jailbreak the phone?
Ah, to get the gestures.
Exactly, to enable the full-screen swipe gestures that the newer iPhones without home buttons use. That would bypass needing the awkwardly placed rear button or relying on assistive touch.
But that would come with a trade-off, wouldn't it? Like, no more updates.
The significant one, yeah. And it was a very conscious choice for the builder. Their main goal was stability and, crucially, getting those standard OTA updates directly from Apple.
Right.
Jailbreaking would prevent those updates. And that was a deal breaker because they wanted to run the latest official iOS versions. They even mentioned wanting to try the upcoming iOS 19 beta eventually.
Okay, so official updated iOS trumped finding a slicker navigation method.
Pretty much, yeah. That was the priority.
Did the builder make it sound like this is something, anyone with some decent tech skills could replicate? Or is it super specialized?
They definitely described it as a one-off custom build they made for themselves. And while acknowledging the technical difficulty needing specific skills like that PCB welding,
Right.
they also sort of mentioned that similar kinds of really intricate hardware mods are known to exist, maybe from highly skilled modders, perhaps particularly in places like China where people have been doing complex component swaps for years.
Interesting. And they confirmed it works like a real iPhone for app development using Xcode?
Yes, absolutely. The builder explicitly stated that because it is genuine Apple hardware running official iOS, it registers correctly with Apple. So you can use it as a real development device with Xcode, just like you would a standard iPhone SE3 off the shelf.
Wow. Were there any hints about what crazy project they might tackle next? Any future ideas?
They did toss out a few ideas, yeah. One was trying to integrate iPhone internals into a BlackBerry shell.
Ooh, the keyboard.
Exactly. That would be fascinating, figuring out the keyboard challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Another idea was putting Android internals into a Lumia shell, sort of an open source counterpart to this iOS project.
That'd be cool too.
Or maybe using parts from iPhones that don't have physical home buttons for future builds, which might solve that rear button awkwardness.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, regardless of what's next, this project really just highlights the immense technical skill, the patience, and the very specific knowledge needed to pull something like this off.
Yeah,
It's so far beyond just, swapping a battery or a screen.
absolutely. So, zooming out a bit,
Hmm.
what does a project like this actually mean for you listening to this? I mean, it's cool, but is it just a curiosity?
No, I don't think it's just a curiosity at all. This build, it's a remarkable testament to several things, really.
Like what?
Well, it's about extreme technical skill, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also about profound creativity
Yeah.
and this really potent desire to blend beloved elements from technology's past
Yeah.
with the cutting-edge functionality we have today.
It really makes you think about that relationship between a device's physical shape, its form, and its software identity, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
This is a device that looks like a 2013 Windows phone, but it behaves entirely like a 2022 iPhone running, say, 2024 software. It kind of challenges the idea that hardware design is inseparable from the user experience of the original OS.
And it absolutely taps into that deep vein of nostalgia so many of us have for older tech designs. It wasn't just enough to remember the Lumia 1020 fondly. For this builder, the desire to actually experience that specific form factor, but with modern capabilities, was strong enough to justify this huge, complex effort.
Yeah. Ultimately, it just shows what's truly possible when dedicated enthusiasts apply incredible skill and passion. They're pushing the boundaries of what consumer electronics are supposed to be.
Right. It's like a physical manifestation of innovation driven purely by personal curiosity and a love for tech history and its future potential. It makes you appreciate the art and the engineering in both the original designs and these crazy modifications.
So you've heard about this LumiPhone, an iconic Windows Phone exterior, that classic look brought back to functional life with the powerful brain of a modern iPhone running the very latest iOS.
Yeah, it's a device really born from skill, nostalgia, and maybe refusal to accept the usual boundaries between tech eras and ecosystems.
And it really begs the question, doesn't it? If you had the technical chops, I mean, really had the skills, and you could take the complete working internals of any modern device, maybe your current phone, maybe a tablet, maybe even like a mini PC, and somehow house them inside the shell of any classic gadget, what piece of retro tech would you choose to revive with a modern brain?
And thinking about this project, how it merged form and function across time, why would that specific combination be meaningful or cool to you? What cherished design would you want to pair with what essential modern capability?
Something to think about.
Yeah.
That fascinating possibility as you
Yeah.
go about your day.